What are some interesting life hacks for saving money? Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. I wish you a pleasant viewing experience. Story 1. This is not mine, but the 72-hour rule is pretty darn helpful. Basically, the gist of it is, if you want something that is not a necessity, instead of buying it immediately, add it to a list. In my case, I use a spreadsheet, but whatever works, then wait 72 hours. If after 72 hours you still want it, then you can buy it. It seems that 80-90 of the time, after the 72 hours is up, I don't end up buying the item I thought I wanted. The reason I like doing it with a spreadsheet is I can then, at the end of the year, easily add it up and see how much money I didn't impulsively spend. Edit. It took me a while, but I remembered where I picked this idea up from. It initially came into my world from listening to the Choose 5 podcast interview with the Frugalwoods. Here's the podcast, and here is her original article on it. Story 2. Try buying reusable objects in place of single-use ones. It's better for your wallet and environment. Steel water bottles, reusable K-cups, dish towels instead of paper towels, etc. Over time, the costs of little things really add up. Answer. I've been working on reducing my use of Ziploc bags recently. Every day for work, I take a PBJ, a bag of baby carrots, and some blue cheese dressing. I have 4 little square containers for the dressing and 2 little sandwich boxes. Still need to find a good-sized container for carrots, but I have been trying to reuse the plastic bags a few days in a row. And I'm also loving my metal water bottle thing and my reusable straws. Of course, sometimes I end up using a single-use product, but even one use of a reusable product is one less straw or bottle in the environment, and I get better about remembering them every day. Story 3. When at the grocery, look at the price kiosk or whatever unit it is instead of the total price. It's usually posted in one corner. It's not going to save you tons of money, but it does add up. Plus, it takes out the guesswork when comparing similar items. Story 4. If you can buy a tool to complete a repair for the same price as the repair itself, buy the tool and repair it for free next time. Answer. I recently did this with my convertible top. The stitching was coming loose at the seams, and a repair was almost as expensive as a new top. I did some research instead and bought a sewing awl, and I finished it in a couple of afternoons. I spent about $30 total for a 1,000 project, and now have a tool that I can use for stitching any sort of thick fabrics. I don't anticipate using it much, but even just one more time and I'll be satisfied. Story 5. I try to cost things as portions of better or more fulfilling things, i.e., a coffee is 110 of a new game, 10 meals out is a weekend away, etc. Story 6. Learn how to log in to your online banking system and review your statement regularly. You'll see how quickly money flows out for coffee, snacks, and unnecessary purchase. Also set a budget and stick to it. Answer. Adding on to this, I set up something called Roundup automatically online through my bank, whereby every purchase I make with my main account is rounded up to the nearest dollar. Then that difference is deposited into my savings account. It's worth checking to see if your bank does this as well, as I'll end up saving an extra 20 or 30 bucks a month without noticing. Story 7. I don't smoke but live my financial life as a smoker, meaning every Monday I transfer the sum of 1 week's worth of cigarettes to my savings account. If people that earn less than me can afford smoking, so can I. Answer. That's exactly why I quit. Do the math over a lifetime, especially if you're living in a place where they're expensive and you smoke a lot. Mine came out to almost $150,000 over my lifetime. I had luckily only been smoking for 5 or 6 years at that point, so I did not lose that much. In the moment, it's easy to divide it up by saying, oh, this pack costs 8 and it has 20 cigarettes, so that's less than 50 cents a cigarette. But the adding is where it really gets scary. 8 or even just 5 a day can really make a difference. Story 8. Easy one. Buy your own modem. You can get a good one from Amazon for $100. Internet companies charge you $10 to $12 a month to rent yours. Buy your own, return the rented one to internet company, and get that charge removed from your bill. Pays for itself in under a year. Story 9. Get yourself a library card. It's not just books, but also movies, workshops, education, software, computer time, music. I've probably saved thousands on all sorts of crap. If it weren't for the library, I probably wouldn't have been introduced to awesome books like American Gods, The Way of Kings, All Systems Down, or The Road. Answer. Any book you want to read is probably available at your county's library. Just go to their website, look it up and reserve it, and they will transport it to your nearest branch. Wait for an email that tells you it's ready for pickup and go get it. You can get ebooks, DVDs, music, and comic books the exact same way. They treat ebooks like books. They have so many copies they are allowed to send to a reader at any given time. Save not only money, but space in your home too. Story 10. I don't spend one bills, I collect them in a box, and at the end of the year, I usually have a few $100s. Story 11. If you have any land whatsoever and you aren't growing at least some your own food, plant a fruit tree, etc., you are really missing out. We got 20-ish raspberry canes at an end-of-season auction last year for one each. They saved me at least $200 in the first year alone, and they are spreading nicely, filling out the space I planted them in. I was pulling in 100 tomatoes every day at one point this summer. My freezer is full of free soups and bags of frozen tomatoes. I saved seed, heirlooms, and from here on out, I get free tomato plants forever. If you mulch them heavy with wood chips, they are almost no work. You can make your own compost really easy. It's all a lot less work than you think and totally free money. Plus, fresh raspberries, tomatoes, peaches, strawberries, they are life-changing. The shoot in the store is hollow, tasteless garbage. This year alone, I bet I saved at least $2,000 from food I grew with zero inputs other than a few hours to drop some compost down, plant, mulch, then pick now and then. Answer. I have 10 acres and always grew a variety of fruit and vegetables. When my kids were little, I'd send them to the garden to graze. Then I didn't have to make a vegetable for dinner. Unfortunately, I just got my second bite from a Lyme-positive tick. Though I know there are ways to protect yourself, I was too paranoid this year. Maybe next year, if I'm not sick. Story 12. Look at store-branded food items. Do you really think Safeway, Kroger, Dollar General, Costco, and Walmart all have independent tuna canning facilities? No, they're sourcing the product from of the big three or however many facilities that supply the name brand. This goes for the majority of store-branded items. Make it a game to find out who has what national name product as their store brand product. Story 13. Make your own lunches for work. The cost of preparing your lunch for the week can be less than what you pay buying one day's lunch. Also can provide health benefits. X200B. Story 14. Don't buy the cheapest option. Often the middle-priced option will be the best value. Things that are too cheap are worth what you paid for them. Answer. Agree 100. I used to be a dollar store junkie. It took me forever to realize I was basically just throwing handfuls of dollar bills in the trash and cluttering my home with garbage products. Edit. Yes, there are a lot of things that work great from the dollar store, and I still go for DIY supplies. There are some amazing finds, but I still spent years buying products that went unused due to their lack of quality. Story 15. Me. Oh, I'm always broke. Maybe I'll find some great useful tips here. Also me. Literally all you have to do is stop eating out every goddamn day and pounding beers for no goddamn reason. Literally, that's it. That's the only thing you have to do. Answer. Since everything has basically been said, the ultimate money-saving hack would be make more money. Yeah, I know, duh. But how many here are taking notes on how to save money by clipping coupons or buying store brand items instead of working on your profession? Professional certifications, teaching yourself how to code, learning any new skill. Nah, I'll browse Reddit or play games instead. Story 16. Buy secondhand. Today I have secured myself a solid pine desk for my daughter's room, no marks or damage, for $10, and a worn once 3-piece navy suit for my son to wear at our wedding next year, also for $10. I buy maybe 80 of my stuff secondhand. I bide my time, wait for a bargain, and I have saved so much money over the years. Answer. Definitely this. Most things, furniture, electronics, cars, bikes, sports equipment, instruments, etc. can be bought a lot cheaper used. Don't buy into the Craigslist murder rapist thing, but obviously be careful and try to meet in a public place. Many people sell stuff they never use, so you can get a brand new thing many times for much cheaper. Story 17. Pay your savings account immediately and treat it like a bill. Each check, 100, 400, 50, whatever you can afford, gets put away no matter what. Educate yourself on finance as well. The best way to save money is to be savvy about it in first place. P.S. The amount that they tell you put away, Tenton, is not nearly enough. Answer. I've been putting away 20 of my paycheck, then sticking half of my rent money into a separate account each paycheck. I then have the rest of my money for bills, debt, and living expenses for 2 weeks. I'm getting paid 3 times in November, so I'll probably throw that extra $200 rent money into savings. My paycheck will go down about $150 in the summer, so it'll be nice to have the backup money in case things get tight. Story 18. I have a friend who, at the end of each pay period, moves whatever she has in checking into savings. It doesn't matter if she's got 5 or 50 in the account, it goes into savings the night before payday. Story 19. Making one extra payment on your mortgage per year will reduce a 30-year mortgage to roughly 17 years. Answer. Usually your mortgage is pretty good debt to have. Tend to be lower interest rates than other, especially unsecured debt, the YMMV. Paying down your mortgage principal early can certainly shorten the length of the loan. Though without doing the math myself, I think 17 years isn't right, but it's probably the last debt you should look at. Credit card payments and auto loans with higher rates are a better first place to look. TLDR, don't pay down a low-interest mortgage early if you have other high-interest debt. Story 20. Live as a minimalist. Getting exactly what you need is not suffering. The Minimalist Budget Edit. The Minimalist Budget takes a more expanded view of how to be a minimalist. An example from the book. If collecting action figures makes you happy, then why not allocate 5 of your income to it? Why not 10? Life is short, and finding true happiness can be difficult. Sure, you don't need action figures to survive, but if they truly bring you joy, then by all means, allocate resources to fulfill your hobby. The book takes notice of not only how to be frugal and save money, but also how to manage other resources in your life. Some have said resources are possibly more important than just money, such as time, spirituality, happiness, etc. Answer. I recently had the opportunity to move to a new city with just a medium-sized suitcase. Found myself a small unit apartment and only got living essentials, couch, bed, couple plates and cups, and some plants, all off of Kijiji. I feel less cluttered and spend my money where it really matters. I actually really love my place because it's cozy and simple. Everything I got at home is all I need, not want. Story 21. Acting broke. Trust me. Nothing helps you save more than acting broke. And there is a way to do that without becoming a mooch. Eat at home if your friends have a dinner plan at an expensive place. Pre-game if you're going clubbing. And if anyone asks you, why aren't you eating, drinking, coming for that vacation, just say you're broke. I learned this the hard way. Because I remember becoming a recluse and slowly stopped socializing, just because my friends always had these extravagant and expensive plans, and I realized it really started weighing down on me. But eventually I learned that there was no shame in wanting to save money being broke, and definitely none in saying so. Answer. I make a fair amount of money, but still try to act as though I am a college student when it comes to spending. All my friends and I are out in town for an afternoon of day drinking, and while they're getting 5 to 6 drafts, I got a 4-pitcher of Natty Light at 25 years old. Did I get crap? Absolutely. Did I get tipsy with everyone and save 20, 30? Yes. Yes, I did. Story 22. When buying online, leave items in the shopping cart for a while. There is a good chance that the website is tracking this and will lower the price over time to entice you into buying. I've saved a lot by being patient. Like when I got a surround sound amp for $350 that was listed everywhere for $450 to $500 just by leaving it in the online shopping cart for a week. Story 23. Buy defective clothes. They're usually way cheaper than regular clothes, and most of the time you can't even tell what's wrong with them. Usually it's just something like the arms being marginally too long or a pattern that was from last season, and even then most people can't tell what's from this and previous seasons. Story 24. Separate shootout. Use multiple bank accounts. Use one for bullshit money. Use one for rent, mortgage, fever. Use one for recurring bills, gas, car payment, insurance, bills, etc. You know one easy way to not accidentally blow your rent money on Dumbshoot? Keep it separate from your go party with Jeff on a Friday night money. Answer. I do this as well. One account, spend, and another, bill pay. I get my direct deposit in spend, transfer each bill individually into bill pay, then pay bills. I did this after I overdrafted my account multiple times one week because I forgot about a large payment that took forever to clear. After like $250 in overdraft fees, I was done. I've kept the same system even after switching banks and works really well, especially for personal checks that take forever to clear. Edit spelling hard. Story 25. Usually paychecks are issued every 2 weeks while bills are monthly. You have to pay bills 12 times a year, but you get paid 26 times a year. So every year you get 2 extra paychecks. Don't spend that money. Use it to pay off debt or put it in the bank. Story 26. Dollar store bleach, dollar store vinegar, dollar store cleaning products, dollar store air freshener. Story 27. Learning how to cook pasta, rice and beans, soups, stews, polenta, grits, etc. Really anything that costs very little and can feed a huge family. You save insane amounts of money even if you are frugal in terms of buying cheaper things from stores, e.g. 5 sandwich. For that same 5, you can make pasta with butter, cheese and peas for the whole family. Or make beef stew with barley. Chuck roast is really cheap and delicious in a stew. Story 28. If you're in the U.S. and have children in daycare, you can deduct up to $5,000 per year tax-free. My wife's company offers a flexible spending account for this, and they don't reimburse until she turns in receipts. She doesn't ever turn in receipts until late November, early December. So every year around Christmas, we get an extra $5,000 check. Story 29. Store brand over-the-counter medications. Allergy meds, Pepto-Bismol, Tums, Motrin, Aleve, Tylenol, you name it. There is a store brand equivalent that is guaranteed to be at least $75 cheaper than the name brand. Just look at the ingredients. They are all the same. Most of them are just Target, CVS, Rite Aid, etc. Buying time on a name brand company's manufacturing process to make their own version of the same substances for less. Story 30. Call around for car insurance. Do it right now. I was with Safico the last 8 years and happy I was paying less than in previous years. Just called around again after moving and found out I was paying roughly 2.5x what I should have been. It was like over $1,500 more a year. I feel like I've been had. Story 31. If you are getting married, send out wedding invitations to every billionaire's address you can find. You have a 50 chance that their assistants will just send you a perfunctory gift without ever wondering who the hell you are. Free gifts. X200B. This tip was brought to you by a random meme I saw 5 minutes ago. Story 32. Don't use your main checking account for non-essentials. Give yourself a cash allowance each week, set it to whatever you find comfortable, and only spend that. Once it's gone, and you have to wait until next week. It really helps with budgeting. You know exactly how much you're spending on non-essentials, and you don't need to track every penny. Story 33. Rice is really cheap and can be really tasty. Have a side of rice with a lot of homemade meals to really round it out with basically no cost. Same with some simple sautéed veggies. Very low cost, quite healthy and tasty. Story 34. If you're buying something, for example, deodorant, if there is a value pack versus a singular package one, look at the weights and prices of each. It shouldn't be hard to do the math and see, oh, the single one is 1 OZ, but the value pack is 1.2 ERAs. Just ran into this yesterday at the grocery store. Story 35. Did you just get a raise? Put that amount into savings if you already have it. A couple $100 a month is nice, but you'll probably not notice is week to week. Story 36. 10 of your paycheck goes into a savings account and 20 to debts. The remainder stays in your checking account to pay bills and feed entertain yourself. Be disciplined and stick to the plan. If you can, increase the savings percent. When you have enough savings to fulfill an emergency fund, start investing. Calculate if you can afford things using these constraints. And if you can't, then don't purchase them. Not exactly a life hack, but this plan will make you wealthy. Story 37. To really save money, you need to attack the big things. Brewing your own coffee, bringing a bag lunch, etc. are all well and good. But if you're leasing a new car instead of buying a beater, or living in an apartment that's more than you need, or sending a kid to a private school, those will wash out any other minor savings. Story 38. Drive slower, you will see an immediate increase in MPG. Your brakes will last longer. Your tires will last longer. You will immediately be at a reduced risk for an expensive accident. Your engine will be able to go further before needing expensive repairs. Answer: my dad is beating my parents' car into the ground. I never noticed as a kid, but after I took driver's ed, leased a new car, and put just under 10,000 miles on it, dang, he drives like he disliked that poor van. Floors the gas to accelerate, shifts to low gears to decelerate, drives way too fast, charges down bumpy dirt roads, on and on and on. Makes my mom furious. BC, they put so much money into repairing it, from things that wouldn't need attention for another year if he'd just play nice, that they could buy a decent used car. They need to. Mom won't go farther than 2 hours from home, BC. She's so afraid of all the things that very well could go wrong with it. I baby my Civic, and even with a kayak and bike rack on top in a very hilly region, am getting 36 familiar. Unless I crash, I won't need to do anything beyond regular maintenance until my lease ends. Dad has driven my car once, and I hope it stays that way. Story 39. eBay, sell your old chute. You'd be surprised at what others are willing to buy when you may think it's worth nothing. Story 40. If you're low income, apply for food stamps, or whatever your city-state calls the equivalent. Seriously, there's no shame in it. I neglected to apply for several years when I was really struggling because I had to unlearn the stigma that they had when I was growing up. Times have changed. If you need help, don't be afraid or embarrassed to ask for it. I qualify for the maximum amount where I live. It doesn't cover my monthly food expenses, but it gets me through a few weeks and I could make it stretch if I really needed to. It never hurts to apply. Story 41. Before buying anything unessential, ask yourself if you'd rather hold that or its value in cash. Living overseas, I spent a lot because I kept thinking in Canadian currency and everything was dirt cheap in comparison. I started thinking in, how many t-shirts is this worth? And rethought how I spent money. A friend used beer as his metric. Story 42. Don't spend $5 bills. If you have one in your wallet, put it in a drawer. Funded a trip to Disney doing this. Story 43. Look at your bank statement at the end of the month and see what the recurring things are, monthly payments, regular food place, etc., and just look at how much you are spending on them. I often get to the tail end of the month and wonder, where the fudge has all my money gone? Then I look and think, food and unnecessary payments to stuff I don't need. Makes me want to at least try and cut back. Story 44. A more expensive good quality product will save you money on the long run compared to shoot cheaper versions of the product, which you might have to replace fix more often. Of course, higher price does not guarantee higher quality, so you have to do your research before purchasing. Sometimes the cheaper option might turn out to be the better product. Story 45. I'm 26 and I've been living with my folks again to get back on my feet. I've been paying what amounts to rent and utilities into a savings account to see if I can handle the reduction in cash flow. Should have about $10K by John and moving back out. before mooching, I pay them monthly as well. Story 46. Putting rubber liners around your windows and doors will cut your energy bill by a third. $20 at Walmart for my whole house. Story 47. Get a couple of bank accounts. Spread your paycheck across all them when you receive it based on your budget. For example, one for bills, one for fun money, one for savings, and one for emergency fund. Never steal from the other accounts. Only keep the debit card of your fun money in your wallet. Story 48. Most people wash their hair way too often, and the scalp responds by increasing sebum production, leading to a cycle of, I have to wash my hair every day or it'll be greasy. Slowly cut back and/or investigate alternative hair care methods. Conditioner-only washing, no pooing, etc. Shampoo and conditioner are expensive. If you garden, find other friends who garden and swap seeds, seedlings, rarely used tools, post holers, mulchers, etc., cuttings, and expertise. Same goes for any other hobby, really. A weird size of knitting needle for a one-off project, a cement trowel, a novelty baking pan. Someone you know probably has it. I'm not saying be a niche, definitely reciprocate. But it's ridiculous for 10 friends to own 10 sets of stuff they rarely use. I get basically all my books from 2 annual book fairs run by charities, $1 or $2 a piece. Libraries are obviously even more frugal. But if you want to keep books, this is the way to go. If you want a new book and can't borrow it, Kindle is generally cheaper than a physical copy. In the winter, never throw out a roast chicken carcass. Chuck it in the slow cooker with water, a bit of salt, and if you're really onto it, onion and carrot ends you've saved in a Ziploc bag in the freezer from chopping veggies. Leave it overnight for stock, which is not only great as a soup base, but makes rice taste amazing. Liquid gold. Op shops in rich neighborhoods have fancy clothes. Coconut oil is a good cheap moisturizer, hair oil, deodorant when mixed with baking soda, shaving lotion, oil cleanser. Buy or make small Christmas stockings, not those huge Santa sack monstrosities. Train your kids that stockings are for edible treats, not gifts. Fill them with yummy things, pretzels, mini packs of snacks and chips, candy, whatever. If your kids are smallish and don't eat a ton of treats, they'll still be super excited. And now you don't have a trillion plastic junky toys cluttering up your house. Buy one Christmas present a month, ideally something on sale, and store them up. Mystery shopping is a good way to get a bit of cash and luxuries you wouldn't otherwise be able to afford. Buy good shoes and get them resold when they wear out. I've worn the same pair of fancy Italian boots for 10 years? Had the zippers fixed twice and the soles redone twice. Even if it didn't save money, it'd be worth avoiding the hell of shoe shopping. And my boots get compliments, so yay. Story 49. Just don't spend on items you don't need. Little items for $10 here and there add up. Even as less as $1 adds up in the end. Story 50. I haven't seen this in this thread yet, so reduce your constant monthly expenses as much as you can. Anything that you pay for every single month, see if you can get rid of it or get a better price on it. Over time, those savings aggregate and really add up. For example, if you're paying for cable, get rid of it. It costs way too much for what you get, and so much entertainment is now available for much cheaper. Or just torrent. This thread is for hacks after all. Get a cheaper internet and cell phone plan. Monthly subscriptions for services are all the rage now because companies figured out that people will continue paying every month even if they barely use the service. Don't fall for that. Unless you use that service a lot to justify paying for it every month, it's probably better to drop it and find a per-use option. Story 51. This isn't a good way to save per se, but I have an urge when I buy things to earn that money back. So I work as an on-call bartender for a few different places that host events. So basically, all of my 9-to-5 money goes into savings, while the bartending money gives me better quality of life. Story 52. What really helped me was putting all my expenses in a spreadsheet, divided into categories, i.e. food, snacks, adult beverage, going out, clothes, transport, bills, etc. I found having to write down everything I buy acts to, albeit slightly discouraged me from spending money on stupid shoot, and tallying up the totals after, say, 6 months really puts things in perspective. Personally, I didn't realize I was spending so much on adult beverage, and I have managed to cut down on needless spending and save much more than I used to. Story 53. Save your change. At the end of the day, put all your pocket change into a container. I saved enough to move from Florida to Arizona with just my change. Story 54. MA freshman in college and only get $80 a week. Because I usually blow it at the movies or takeout, I got smart. Every time I go to the dining hall, I sneak food back to the dorm. Story 55. Get a bidet, save on TP, don't buy condiments, they're free in those little packets. Build a giant hamster wheel that spins a turbine for electricity, add Siberian Huskies. Story 56. If you can, buy electronics refurbished or lightly used on eBay or Amazon. They'll often be quite a bit cheaper a few months after release, maybe with a minor scratch. Certain things probably aren't worth getting used though, like hard drives and earbuds. EDEW. Edit. Also, don't get used graphics card. As been pointed out in the comments, they were often used for crypto mining and are pretty worn out. Story 57. If you find it hard to stick to a grocery list, order things on the grocery store app and get it delivered your car. Some people save money even after the fee is paid because they would normally buy more items that are not on the list. Story 58. I saw this on the gaming subreddit once for buying quality games, but 11 hours worth of playtime and kind of applied to everything else. Coveralls for work 120, therefore I should at the minimum be able to get 120 working hours out of it. I don't make a ton of money, but it allows me to figure what I actually use all the time for work and buy quality so it lasts longer and saves money in the long run. Story 59. Always buy holiday items the day after the holiday. Halloween? Go to your craft store today and pick up everything 70 off for next year. Christmas? Same thing. December 26th is 90 off all Christmas shoot. It saved me thousands of dollars simply buying my stuff when you're out. Story 60. Stop buying Starbucks. You can buy the syrup they use at Target for $5 and coffee for another $10 that will last a whole month. That would be 3 trips to Starbucks for that price. Story 61. Keep a calendar of when bills are due and pay them on time so that you avoid late fees and penalties. On a credit card, paying late is even worse because you start incurring finance charges starting with that month's balance. Story 62. Make a budget that you understand and can maintain. My parents taught me how to balance a checkbook, and I never enjoyed doing that, especially when I could just import from my bank. Then I started using Quickem's Money, and they wanted to create all these darn categories, which eventually became a great way to do the shell game on how you spend. Then I found Total Money Makeover system that my wife and I were both able to understand, and it was pretty simple. We stated saving here. Then I got divorced and into the screw it phase of my life, stopped saving. Now I'm on YNAB. You need a budget and back on saving. Same philosophy though, simple. I have a handful of categories: monthly bills, rent, electric, water, car, etc. General life, gas, food, clothes, etc. Savings or splurge. I pay all my bills right after each payday, so those clear up fast, and then I have effectively 2 choices when I spend. Is this splurging, generally just something fun I want, or a common expenses? At the end of the day, if I exceed the budget on either, I have to cover the overage from one of the other categories. But this helps me maintain some sanity when I can quickly look and see, okay, I'm 130 on splurging this month. I need to chill out on the spending here. This works for me. But the point is, as long as you can identify changes in your spending habits, that is what works for you. Use that. It will save you money. Story 63. Buy secondhand stuff. I cannot believe how much we have saved doing that. Everything from the car to kid stuff to music gear. outdoor gear, clothing, tools, etc. People have so much stuff lying around that they have hardly used. Just bought a base cab for $25 of the store price, and it works like it's new. Story 64. Think long and hard about what is a want and what is a need. You don't need that new shirt, you want it. You don't want lunch, you need it. But do you need to spend 10 on it? No. Story 65. Download Acorns, turn on roundups, and forget you have it. It'll round up each purchase you make to the next dollar, so you acquire a lot of change, which then turns into a pretty nice savings account. Story 66. Moving to the middle of nowhere. Much lower cost of living. Easier to hunt or raise some groceries. Very inconvenient to spend money eating out. Sometimes higher commute expenses and worse job prospects depending on your field though. Story 67. Pay everything with bills and never spend any coins given back as change. Put the coins in a jar back at home. In Canada, with loonies and toonies, I save around $2,000 a year doing this alone. Story 68. A mortgage should be your only debt. Save up to pay for everything else upright, including cars, student tuition, trips, and weddings. If you don't have the money for what you want in cash, find another cheaper alternative in the meantime and keep saving. Note, I am a Canadian and I know many people in the United States end up in debt due to surprise illness. I don't know much about this, but I recognize it is a different type of debt. Answer, I disagree. If you have, say, $15,000 and are going to pay cash for a presumably used car or something cheap AF, then that $15,000 would serve you better invested. One of my favorite mutual funds is Fidelity Contra Fund. Average 5-year return is 12.12. My last car loan was 1.99. Over 5 years, you could nearly double your $15K and have a car fully paid off that only cost you an extra $700 in interest. Story 69. If you are from a rich country looking for a vacation and are going to book a hotel online, select that you are from a rather poor country and use Google Chrome to translate pages to your own language. Countries with lower average income often gets lower prices on online hotel booking. Just checked at a hotel in Barcelona where the price ended up being much lower from 125 to 60 per night when I changed country from Norway to Paraguay. I think the hotels still get a fixed share anyway. You just pay less administration fees to the website, I believe. Story 70. If you and your spouse have similar income levels, getting married has significant negative tax implications for you. See marriage penalty. So if you want to get married, have a civil ceremony, sign wills, power of attorney, do name changes if you want, but don't get an actual wedding certificate. Also, don't live in a state that has common law marriage. Continue filing taxes singly and save huge amounts of money. Edit. Note that this primarily impacts higher income households. Story 71. Might sound kind of weird, but I keep track of when I resist buying something I don't need. I write down what it is and the price. At the end of the month, I total it up and then put that amount, if I can, into my savings account. Something about seeing that list and how much money I've saved is like satisfying. You don't want to know how much money I was spending at Starbucks twice a week until I started doing that. I've also lost weight by doing this. Not getting coffee out and not going out to eat as often has done wonders for me. Story 72. Freeze your credit cards. Literally, place them in a Ziploc bag in a bowl full of water and then stick it in the freezer. The whole point is to keep you from using it for everyday purchase since it's not easily available. If there is an emergency, you can just take it out and thaw it in no time. Story 73. I always think about how many hours I have to work to buy something. Are those 120 Ray-Bans worth working 8 hours? Story 74. Don't eat before trying to get tipsy when you're out. You'll get there much faster and spend less money on expensive adult beverage in bars. Also, try not to spend all this money once you're tipsy because tipsy you doesn't care about saving. Story 75. Clear your credit card due right away. Don't roll it over. You would be surprised to know how fast the interest and penalty mounts on the payment due. Story 76. Put unexpected money in a separate account and don't spend it. Birthday money, Christmas money, tax returns for people who get them, or basically anything that is not part of your paycheck. You weren't planning on getting the money anyway, so pretend you didn't get it and save it. Story 77. Learn how to say no. For some of us, we might be very lucky to be regularly invited out to that dinner, night out, concert, etc. But at a certain point, it adds up very quickly, and you end up spending so much money on things that other people want to do. Learn how to say no and how to say no for financial reasons. Something along the lines of, I'm trying to be really diligent with my money, and I think that's over my budget, is a perfectly valid excuse not to go out and grab food with that friend who didn't plan a meal ahead of time, or that friend who really wants someone to go to that thing with him, or that's you're not really interested in. I've found it also feels better and is less annoying to others when you phrase like that versus I can't afford it. It's an active choice you're making and a smart choice, so stand strong. I've also found that getting involved in cheap activities saves me money, even just activities that have fixed costs. I'm part of a community center gym that has lots to do, and it's not cheap, but the value is incredible. Even though I pay a monthly fee, I spend so much of my free time there that I hardly get the chance to spend money on anything else. I've also found something to do every Saturday night that costs literally $15 for the entire evening. And that's it. I used to easily spend $80-$100 on a Saturday night out. Keep yourself occupied with something that's within your means, and the bleeding money feeling is less likely to sneak up on you. Likewise, live in the cheapest living situation that you can handle, with the cheapest car that you can tolerate, or public transit, bike, walking, etc. I can't get over how much some of my friends pay for car leases and maintenance on something they don't need and can't afford. I'm perfectly happy with my $5,000 fully paid used vehicle with good mileage and common enough parts that I can afford the maintenance. Story 78. Open a savings account in an online bank like Capital One. Destroy the debit card and checks and don't link it to any other bank account. Set up a direct deposit from your work for a small amount, like $20 or $50 a paycheck. You'll be amazed how much you can save in a couple of months without realizing, and because you can't quickly move that money around, you won't use it. Story 79. Every time I want to make an impulsive purchase, I imagine someone offering me the exact same amount of money to not buy the thing. I'm amazed at what I've paid myself out of buying. Story 80. Buy your tin, tomatoes, rice, etc. in the world food aisle, as opposed to the tin tomato aisle. It's much cheaper. Story 81. Life hack. Write tip instead of life hack, and you can use the time you've saved to do other things. Story 82. If you're trying to buy any high-level-ish electronic good, search hard in Amazon's used section for Amazon Prime warehouse deals. These are items that literally only have had their box damaged. I needed a new phone a few times, and you can save $20, $40 on phones and such just by buying a phone with a damaged box. Device will work fine. Story 83. Ask yourself the following question. What do I really need in order to have fun? We all need entertainment in order to stay sane, and there are a wide variety of hobbies which require some variety of monetary investment in order to be enjoyable or even accessible. The thing is, just about anything can be entertaining if approached from the right perspective. Many of us had great fun as stick-wielding children, and that same capacity still exists in us as adults. It's just that we have to relax a little bit in order to appreciate it. Instead of watching a movie, explore the fantasy world that might exist somewhere along the length of a nearby hiking trail. Rather than buying a game, invent one with some of your friends or make new friends by asking for help with ironing out the kinks in your like Battleship but with old shoes concept. Once you start having fun, you'll discover that it's a lot easier to keep having fun. And moreover, you'll find that life in general will get more amusing. Don't be afraid to spend a little bit of money if it would make those sorts of activities more enjoyable, but keep in mind that you don't have to spend anything at all in order to have fun. TLDR. The enlightened man requires no games, for he is content to play with himself. Story 84. Make sure the first bill you pay is to yourself. Take the first 10 of your paycheck and put it in your bank account. Then pay the rest of your bills. I guarantee you'll find that you can afford it. Answer. This is only really true if you don't have debts. I know people who have student loans or whatever at 7 interest, but set aside some of their money in a savings account, making 0.5 interest while still paying off the loan. That's dumb. You're way better off putting that extra money into paying off the loan sooner, as long as you have adequate emergency funds. Story 85. If you can buy a tool to complete a repair for the same price as the repair itself, buy the tool and repair it for free next time. Story 86. Everything is worth X hours of your time, where X is your hourly wage. So if you make $10 an hour, then that Ment's DS value meal is worth a half hour to an hour working. On the other hand, if you are on Reddit or playing a game instead of working when you could be, you are wasting that many dollars per hour. Answer. I have to be honest. I actually think this is terrible advice. The problem is that if you get too ingrained in that mindset, all of the sudden everything is about money. But that's not really how life works. There are intangible things that can't, and really shouldn't, be reduced to some equivalent monetary value. The other problem is that when you start framing all of your time in terms of money earned or partied too hard, You end up feeling compelled to work constantly, which just isn't healthy, mentally or physically. I can't tell you how many of my friends from law school fell into this exact trap. They ended up with these swanky, six-figure jobs right after graduation, and then 5 years later, they couldn't watch their kids' soccer games without wondering how many billable hours were slipping away unnecessarily. They could no longer enjoy the vacations that their high-paying jobs afforded them. They couldn't even take a crap without feeling anxious. Story 87. I opened up a free checking account at a bank other than my credit union that I share with my wife. She is technically on the bank account too, but I ask her not to look at it. I have my paycheck deposited into the bank account, and then I write my wife a check for slightly less than my paycheck, rounded to an even number. This means I have money left in the bank account for birthday gifts, Christmas presents, surprise weekend excursions, etc. This way, she can't see how much money I spend on her gifts. And if an emergency comes up, I have money set aside for it. For example, let's say my 2-week pay deposit is $11.34. I write my wife a check for $1,000, leaving $134 in the bank account. Over time, it really adds up and has become a great little nest egg. Answer: we just got our own house last year, and after a year of mortgage for the first time, I've considered creating a bank account just for mortgage, putting money in every week that amounts to 12 over, rounded up to nearest 100. Auto-drafting the actual amount and forgetting the rest. I'll most likely try and set up a new account tomorrow on my way to work. Story 88. Baking soda. It's incredibly useful, cheap, and has no negative impact on the environment. There are literally hundreds of uses for it. I make my own cheap deodorant with talc and soda, for example, also. Instead of buying a new toothbrush, clean it with chlorine and water. Story 89. I personally have it set up where my bank takes money from my checking twice a month and puts it into my savings. By the end of the year, I have $1,200 saved up just from doing that. Story 90. If you cook in a single household, cook for 2 to 4 people, and put leftover portions in the freezer for busy days. Then you won't have to order takeout on long working day, tired nights. Also, it's more efficient too, because you can avoid buying small packages of stuff, which are often more expensive. Food that I freeze regularly: soups, vegetable soups, chicken soups, pasta sauces, stews, cakes. Some casseroles are good to freeze as well. Story 91. Don't spend it in the first place. Har har. My favorite tip is to play the long game and put even as little as 10 a paycheck into an envelope for rainy day funds, and after a year, you've got a little bit of cushioning for life's unfun surprises. Story 92. The night before you get paid, transfer any money that you have left over from the previous paycheck into savings. It adds up even if it's just a few dollars. Story 93. Be honest with yourself about your priorities and what you are not willing to sacrifice. Needs are needs and wants are wants. But it's easy to acknowledge something as a want and still subconsciously view it as a priority. If deep within you, you are not going to sacrifice your thing, be honest with yourself and just spend that money while saving elsewhere. There are things you may think you can give up, but every time you cheat just this time, you're sabotaging yourself. Just admit that it's a priority. For example, I live in TX. Air conditioning is a necessity, but I'm fat. I'm therefore more comfortable with my apartment cold. I could save money by keeping my apartment less cool. I'm not going to do that. So I cut expenses elsewhere to be more comfortable. It's not a need. I know it's not a need. But for me, it is a priority. Story 94. On payday, I go to the bank and withdraw a set amount of money. I use this as my disposable income. Groceries, gas, bills, etc. I'll pay with my card, but any kind of going out to eat, entertainment, etc. comes from the cash in my wallet. It's very easy to see how much I have left. I've found it's much easier to budget with cash because once you're out, you're out. Story 95. Rice. A huge bag of rice costs about $20 and can stretch a variety of meals. Just throw that shoot in a rice maker with some veggies in the steam basket and have a filling meal for like 1. Dinner 5. Dinner with rice, 7. Story 96. Can we all just declare a moratorium on the phrase life hacks, please? Calming down on the phrase straw man argument would also be a good idea. Story 97. Step 1. Shed all vanity, all ego. Change life. Eat beans, rice, eggs, celery, carrots, onion, macaroni, noodles, ramen. That combination is inexpensive and can make many different low-cost meals for variety. Bag leftovers for lunch. Use one light in the house. Turn off heater unless you need to keep pipes from freezing. Organize trash. Take it out with you every day and dispose 2 grocery bags every day in public trash. Discontinue trash service. Sell car, bike, walk and bus everywhere. Uber only when necessary. Discontinue car payment insurance, registration, gas, smog maintenance. Craft homemade cards with construction paper, glue macaroni, show heart. Buy no gifts, craft everything. Hit garage sales, Goodwill, and dumpsters to acquire living items. The better the neighborhood, the better the junk. Flip what you don't need on Craigslist. If you want to be financially lean, you must live it. Ignore criticism. It's not their money, it's yours. Look up that Chinese lawyer who dumpster dives for shampoo remnants. By collecting it, she pays for no soap, no shampoo for 20 years now. Sub to Finance and Frugal, and stay out of my cans, those are mine. Story 98. Every time I sell something, Craigslist, Facebook, whatever, I stash the money away in an envelope. I have thousands saved up from this. Note, I don't have a ton of stuff but had a baby 2 years ago. You go through shoot fast, even when bought second or third hand. I resell everything after I'm done with it. Story 99. I've had a lot of success with not buying dumb shoot I will never use. My other big win is not voluntarily getting addicted to literal fudge poison and spending hundreds of dollars on it a month. Story 100. A quality more expensive item can cost you less in the long run and also be more enjoyable. For example, option A is to buy a cheap pair of faux leather dress shoes for $75, which wear out after a year and you have to buy another pair. Option B is to buy an expensive pair of nice leather dress shoes for $300 that will last for at least 5 years before you maybe have to spend $50 to get them resoled and last another 5 years. After 5 years, option A has cost you 5x75, pre-75, while option B costs $300. After 10 years, option A has cost $750, while option B costs $350. That doesn't even get into how option B is actually a pair of ultra-comfortable, good-looking, quality dress shoes that you love wearing almost every day. The key is to spend the additional money on a quality product, not necessarily just a brand name. A 300 pair of Gucci sunglasses will never last you 20x longer than a pair of 15 knockaround sunglasses. Story 101. I once read something on a bankim with, well, on their website, a year has 52 weeks. In week 1, you put 1 in a jar. In week 2, you put 2 in the jar. In week 3, you put 3 in the jar, and so on till week 52. If my math is correct, by the end of the year, you would have saved $12.68. Now, seeing as December is quite an expensive month with Christmas and all, you can also switch it around. Week 1, 52, and then count back to week 52 being 1. Story 102. The ACH payment is your friend. Whether it's to an online bank or investment, set up automatic withdrawals from your checking or savings account to these other accounts. It'll take a couple months to get used to, but once you have these $50, $100, $200 payments withdrawn on autopilot, you're set to save and invest without thought. Story 103. See money that you invest save as being lost and plan to never use it again. Too many friends of mine just moving money from saving to checking and back every month and end up not saving any. Story 104. Whenever I buy something that isn't disposable, I break it down by the cost per day over its expected life. I try to make every purchase with this rule, which now that I think about it, I just violated recently. I'll mention that later. Everything you buy should cost less than $1 per day use. I'll list some examples. Sunglasses. Working on the water in the Florida Keys, I liked premium high-dollar sunglasses. Costa Del Mar is my preferred brand. I really do find them to be quality and long-lasting. Often they cost $200. I usually hold on to a pair for more than a year. I have a pair that is 3 years old, so this meets the requirements. If I was the kind of person that breaks sunglasses every 3-6 months, then this would not fit the rule. Owning additional pairs of high-dollar shades doesn't fit into my rule. Television. I recently spent $700 on TV. I am expecting to have this TV for at least 3 years. This fits the rule. A car. For this, I use 10-day for new and 5-day used. Clothing, similar principle. Although with clothing, some aspects can be difficult. A suit, for example. I don't work in an office, yet I do have a suit for special occasions. My suit was $200, and I doubt I'll get 200 uses out of it. But you can be certain I won't be getting another suit unless I absolutely must, or find myself in a situation where I am suddenly wearing them much more often. Phone. Here is where I fudge up this year. I got an iPhone X early this year. In a lapse of judgment, and I thought I had to have it. I had had my 6S for longer than my usual cycle and went and spent $1,000 on a phone. I am almost certain I won't have this phone for more than 2 years. Example of a broken rule. I guess I could get 1,000 days out of it. But I like to keep up with mobile tech. You don't have to follow these little self-made rules I've created to a T, But this is a system I've kind of developed for myself, where if I'm going to spend good money on these big ticket items, I want to be sure I'm getting value out of it. Story 105. If you're buying something that you don't need just because it is on a sale, doesn't mean you're saving money. Story 106. In the UK, don't buy meat in a supermarket. Talk to your local butcher, buy in bulk like 6 kilos. Invest in a pressure cooker. Make a bunch of meals, chili, spaghetti, curry, stews, casserole, whatever you want. Freeze them. We buy meat normally once a month. It costs us nearly a third of supermarket prices by buying in bulk and local, and it has the added benefit of a home-cooked meal in 15 millimeters or less. Story 107. A turn sub. Right after college, if you are still on good terms with your parents, stay with them for a couple years while you work, so you can use more of your paycheck for things that actually matter, like saving for a house, a car, or even starting up a retirement fund. Yes, a couple of extra years of saving will net you even more through the fact of compound interest. Story 108. This seems cliche, but if you don't have it in cash, don't buy it. I got into some credit card debt after college and a few years ago, canceled all cards but one to use for emergencies, small things I can piff every month, like gas. I use my debit card cash for everything, and have that card again for emergencies. It's helped me really save money. Story 109. Understand the power of compound interest. I started doing FIRE this year, and on average, money invested in an index fund will double every 10 years. Whenever I am about to make a big purchase, I would ask myself, would I rather have the item now or 2x price money in 10 years? For example, Red Dead 2, would I rather play it now or have 120 in 10 years? Answer, but in 10 years' time with 2 inflation, average over last 10 years, 120 is only worth 77.48 today. Edit. I cocked this up, accidentally put 1998 till now as my start date in the inflation calc, and got 20 years instead of 10. Should be worth 102 inflation adjusted, so 42 Mickey Mouse fun bucks gained on today's money, and then you can then buy a 10 UIO copy of RDR2 at a garage sale for $2. Story 110. Buy cheap, good-smelling shampoo instead of hand soap. You get 5 times more for the same price, and it usually lathers better and smells better. Story 111. Commit a crime to get a prison sentence. 3 meals a day, room and board all paid for, plus healthcare. Story 112. Do your own plumbing repairs. It's super easy if you've got PVC. If you've got copper, then IDK. Not so much fun, maybe just call a guy. But with PVC, the part you need is right there, leaking. Shut off the water to your house, go to the store, ask for another, glue it on, and turn the water back on. You just paid $80 for what may have been a $300 repair if you'd called a plumber. Never design your own plumbing, leave that to an expert. But basic plumbing repair is ridiculous to call a repair guy over. Story 113. For any bills you have to pay monthly that have interest, like mortgage or credit cards, pay half of the payment part way throughout the month. Not only will it prevent yourself from having all of your money dumped at one end of the month, it ensures part of the principal balance is paid off. You can save quite a bit of money doing this. Story 114. When ordering pizza, always get a large. You get way more pizza per than if you order 2 mediums, because math. Story 115. During my first job out of college, I was always getting surprised by bills. I started automating my payments from each paycheck, and I was no longer overwhelmed with bills. Phone bill is about $70, so I have 35 cents to Sprint every paycheck. There are 26 paychecks in a year, so I essentially overpay per year, but it gives me a little wiggle room in case I need to pause it. I do this for most of my regular bills, internet, cable, car insurance, etc. Story 116. If you get paid weekly, bi-weekly, budget for the month only based on 4 or 2 checks. In this way, you'll get an extra couple paychecks a year of free money because rarely you'll have either 5 or 3 checks within the same month, but never less. Story 117. I try to save money by relating how much time something gives me versus how much I am getting paid at the time. An example, say you make 15 per hour. If you pay for something that is 15 and it doesn't give you an hour worth of time, it's not worth the money. Story 118. After getting a mortgage, and because the way it's calculated, the only major spending you should be doing for the next few years is making big capital payments once a year. Example, $250K home will have something like $230K in interest over the lifetime. If you make a lump sum payments of $10K after the first year, You will cover the sum of 33 payments in capital and save roughly $30K in interest payments, reducing your mortgage by roughly 18 months. If you do this enough times, that 25 or 30-year mortgage get paid in 15, 17 years, and you've literally saved $100K in interest payments by not going to destination vacations, by not exchanging cars, by not eating out every week. It's not one big goal of making capital payments on your mortgage, but hundreds of little everyday decisions that will help your bottom line, your waste, and your stress levels. Story 119. One thing I learned from my finance class in high school is to never spend $5 bills. They're way too convenient. I do that and I can save up to $100 a week. Story 120. If you see something you like, don't buy it just yet. Wait 6 months. If you still want it after 6 months, buy it. Story 121. If you have kids, buy their clothes secondhand. Kids grow so fast that they are out of their clothes before they get really destroyed. Spending $2 on a pair of kids' jeans is much better than spending $20, $30 on something they're going to grow out of in a few months. Story 122. Fast 2 days a week. That's what all the food stored around your middle is supposed to be used for. Story 123. Buy a nice to-go coffee mug and a French press. Saves a bunch of money to make your own coffee at home. Story 124. Bike. You save so much money in commuting and travel. You can essentially get a bike for a couple $100 and it pays itself off in no time. Plus, you stay in shape, get places quicker sometimes, and it's good for the environment. Story 125. Buying used and repairing things on your own. It can be clothes, furniture, appliances, your vehicle mode of transportation, anything. Here's an example. One time my car's headlight went out. Took it to a shop and they told me it would cost over $100 to replace because my front bumper was different. LOL. Bought a bulb for $4, got on YouTube and fixed it myself. Literally saved on $100. Story 126. I saw a post on Reddit about a year ago where the person said when you want to buy something, don't think about the price as being X amount of dollars. Think about it as X amount of hours you have to work to buy that thing. So if you make 10 an hour and you want something that costs 100, think about it in the way that you have to work for 10 hours just to get that thing. Makes you rethink how much you actually want it. Story 127. Budget and meal prep. Not super interesting, but effective. I bought $50 worth of groceries that lasted about 2 weeks instead of eating out a handful of times while spending the same. You never realize how much you eat out and how much money you spend until you stop doing it. Story 128. Get a really good cash back credit card rather than using cash. Once a quarter, cash in that cash back and invest. My wife and I have 3 that we use. One card offers unlimited 2 cash back on all purchases. One offers 5 cash back on rotating categories, gas, Amazon, wholesale clubs, etc. And our third offers 3 on travel and 4 on gas. I'd imagine this goes without saying, but don't buy something on credit if you can't afford to pay for it in cash. Credit card interest literally ruins lives. Story 129. There are endless varieties of rice beans, and it's a better quality meal than ramen or frozen crab. If you get bored, throw in some peppers or a fried egg. Still extremely cheap. This is how I got out of credit card debt. Story 130. I have 3 separate bank accounts, plus my 401k and savings, in different bank accounts to keep track of my money. 1. 401k through work. 5 of paycheck goes in here. 2. Checking account 1, rent 3. Checking account 2, bills 4. Checking account 3, allowance $400 every pay period. This is for gas, groceries, and fun things. 5 savings in same bank as 2, 1K always kept in here. This is for emergencies such as car repairs or vet bills for the cats. This bank is a credit union and they are located near my home and are only open from 9 to 5 p.m. when I work 1.5 hours away. So I really have to think about when I want to remove the money. 6. Savings in an online bank with no branches. Rest of my savings, because it's a bank with no branches and the process is super tedious. It takes 7 to 10 business days for it to be released to me, so when I really need cash from this, I really have to think about it, and it curves my impulse shopping. Overall, it's a lot of tracking in a complex-looking spreadsheet, but it helps a lot because my problem is impulse shopping. I don't carry my other debit cards either. Well, sometimes my bill's one because it's tied to the savings account, and it's usually when I'm out of town in case shoot hits the fan. Story 131. I recommend the app Capital for anyone that has trouble saving money. I have saved over $1,000 without even thinking about it because of its automatic savings. It's connected to your bank account. You can create and customize several different rules to save money. Guilty pleasure rule, roundup rule, weekly savings, deposit rule. Examples. I have it set to save 5 every time I buy Starbucks or shop at Target. I have it save 20 of every bank deposit. I have it save 60 every Sunday. You can also make several different goals savings folders. I have one for vacation, one for future veterinarian bills, one for bills, etc. Story 132. Don't buy a flagship phone every 6 to 12 months. When you do buy a new phone, buy it outright and unlocked instead of paying the monthly ransom. This is one of the single best financial choices I have made in a long time. Story 133. Students get free Amazon Prime if you can provide a .edu email address and confirm the email in your inbox. You can cheat and make one up. You have to actually go to college, but it's helping me. I buy lots of food off Amazon because it's cheaper. Story 134. Learn to make food from scratch. Tortillas, cookies, rice dishes, anything you regularly like to eat. There's a markup on Convince in the grocery store. Things like Knorr sides, pre-made pizza crust, biscuits, sauce packs, gravy mixes. You will be able to eat well and entertain yourself in the process. It seems like small savings, but I can feed a family of 4 for about $60 a week like this. Story 135. I'd love to credit the person who first said this on Reddit. To stop impulse buying, the OP and his brother would butter a side of bread and throw it at the wall. Once it fell off, they'd be allowed to buy the thing they wanted. By the time the bread fell off, hours or even days, they no longer wanted the thing. Story 136. Set up a separate bills and spending account. Use a spreadsheet to work all your bills and work out what you actually need. Be honest and include things like food. Each time you get paid, separate the two, $150 into the bills account and $100 into the spending account. It adds up pretty quickly, and you have the safety net of having cash in there for an unexpected bill. Get a separate debit card for the spending account. You can use the spending account on whatever you want, and if you set it all with automatic transfers, you don't need to worry about it. Out of sight, out of mind type thing. Story 137. Female body part havers, cloth pads and period cups. You won't need to replace any of them for a long, long time, and you never worry about running out. Tampons and pads are expensive. Plus, nothing goes into the landfill. Bring your lunch dinner to work. I prep mine the night before. So much money saved. Use Craigslist or a buy-sell FB page for your community. You'd be amazed at what kind of great stuff you can get for cheap or even free. Story 138. I make less than most of my friends and family. I will eat my main meal at home when they choose a fancy place to eat. Choose a smaller portion appetizer or soup when we are out. We are all enjoying each other's company and am not breaking the bank. Story 139. The key to sticking to a budget is cheap entertainment. Sticking to a budget is stressful. When you are stressed, most of the ways you want to alleviate it cost money. Dinner at a restaurant, adult beverage, plant substance, a theater movie. Denying yourself these things causes even more stress. It's a vicious cycle. You have to reduce stress in a way that doesn't cost much money. The internet, use bookstores, libraries, a Netflix account, etc., can help you manage stress and stick to your plan. In the early 90s, I would never have gotten through the lean years without my favorite used bookstore, cheating VHS rentals, and 1.50 movie theaters. Story 140. Fix it yourself. There are zillions of videos showing how to do anything from changing a light switch cover to brain surgery. Take a chance. You can do it, and it's easier than you think. Story 141. 1. Don't buy stuff when it's brand new. Generally, aside from food, clothing, personal products, do you really need that 30-40 DVD that is going to be in the dump bin in a month? That 80 video game that you might not even enjoy? Wait a few months. It'll be reduced. 2. Don't have credit cards to pay off credit cards. 3. Carry cash. Take out a budget of cash for the week for extras, and when it's done, that's it. 4. Pay off your credit card as soon as you get it. Don't spend more than what you have in your account. These are a few rules I live by that help me. Story 142. Real answer. Cook more meals at home, and thrift stores are a blessing. Sarcastic answer. My agoraphobia seems to be a good cure for finances. Story 143. You can set up your bank account to automatically transfer $10-20 every week. It's small enough not to really notice. Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. If you'd like to see more content like this, you might be interested to know that I've created another channel with a similar theme, especially for those of you who enjoy what I do. I'll leave a link in the description, and I hope to see you there. Take care.